Hi, Tim.
Welcome to Rotary. With your unique skills and perspective, you are joining a global network of problem solvers, drawn together by a desire to make a difference. Together, we can be bolder. When you share your ideas and connect with others, it's not just your community that benefits. You'll grow as a leader and feel a shared sense of purpose that comes from finding lasting solutions to big problems. Get involved in a way that's meaningful to you. Find a mentor. Sign up for training. Volunteer in a service project. Or attend a global event. You are now connected to 1.2 million people of action who unite to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Welcome to Rotary.
And welcome to the Rotary Club of San Dimas meeting for October 7th, 2020. It's my pleasure to introduce our president, Diva Alfaro.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I am the president of the San Dimas Rotary. I just like to say one thing that we like to focus on is our avenues of service. This month is international service. If you're not familiar with Rotary, there's so many different things that we do that involve international help. I urge you that to join us, listen in for today, because we have a great speaker that's going to be talking about what his view and his own actual experience with the Rotary and what he's done in international service. So with that, I'd like to again thank everybody for joining us and move it along to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon, everybody. Please join me in honoring the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I would like to go ahead and lead our invocation. I want to thank everybody for joining us today and just the gathering of all these groups of people that are here and those that will be watching later this evening, knowing that we all have the same idea, the same heart to want to put good things out there for good use in a time that we see so many ugly and things that we'd rather not be a part of. So thank you for having like-minded people here to serve our communities nationwide as well as internationally. Amen. So thank you, everybody, again. I'd like to start off by going ahead and everybody introducing, all Rotarians introducing themselves. To begin with, my name is Diva Alfaro. I am now almost 3-year Rotarian, and I am a licensed loan officer, and I specialize with reverse mortgages. I grew up in the city of San Dimas, and I love the city of San Dimas. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Raymond.
I am now the president-elect, finally. Thank you very much.
Next, Steve.
Hello again, everybody. My name is Steve Scott. I have been a member of Rotary for a little over 10 years, getting close to 11. I'm a 3-time president of the club, and I am a State Farm agent in San Dimas.
Thank you, Steve. If I can get Marianne. I'll go ahead and pass it to Tim.
Hi, Tim Pagano, member of the San Dimas Rotary for I think about 5 months now at this point, and I am the recreation manager for the city of San Dimas.
Thank you, Tim. Dan?
My name is Dan Griffin. I'm the Dean of Students over at Chaparral and Vista High Schools, and I'm privileged to serve as my 4th year as a Rotarian, kind of representing the Bonita Unified School District.
Thank you, Dan. Mike?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Wallace. I am the president of Better Home Financial. We are a mortgage brokerage in downtown San Dimas. I've been a Rotarian for about 5 years now, and I am a past president of the club.
Thank you, Mike. Let's see, Marianne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead and if you can introduce yourself.
I already did. Thank you. Not hear me?
Okay.
I can do it again if you want.
Yes, you were muted, Marianne, please.
Sorry. This is Marianne Kistler. I have been a Rotary member for over 23 years. I am a retired banker of 42 years.
Thank you, Marianne. Do we have Craig? He's not there at the moment. So we'll go ahead and get Craig when he gets back on his seat. If I can go ahead before I introduce our guest speaker, if I can go ahead and have our guest that I see that joined us today. If you can go ahead and introduce yourself, I'll start with Greg.
This is Greg Pilato. I'm a new Rotarian this year, but in Laverne. I'm a school psychologist next door in Charter Oak, also running for the Bonita School Board this election. I'm a consistent visitor here, so you all seem like familiar faces.
Thank you, Greg. And Brittany, if you can just say a few words.
Hi, my name is Brittany Allison. I am a Laverne resident, a vice president of a nonprofit. I'm so excited to see Drexel's face and hear his talk. I'm actually going to cite your quote in my mini craft talk, Drexel. So you get a shout out in my mini craft talk. But I'm a vice president of a local nonprofit that is currently running for Bonita Unified School Board and was invited to share a little bit about some of the work that I've been doing locally. And so I'm just excited to hear from all of you and share what I got. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Brittany, for joining us. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Drexel L. Smith. Drexel is a 10-year Rotarian, having served as the Rotary Club of West Covina President, District 5300 Assistant Governor, District International Projects Chair, District Vocational Services Chair, and currently serves as District Annual Peace Conference Committee. Professionally, Drexel is an accomplished senior executive, a consultant board member, and a thought leader of more than 40 years of success in the test and engineering services supporting aerospace, defense, energy, transportation, and advanced technologies industries. Retiring in 2009 after 37 years with Wild Laboratories, Inc., as a corporate SVP. Currently, Drexel is the founder and principal of the Drexel Consulting Group, LLC, a consulting firm supporting a new business startup companies, executive consultant, education, board governance, and new business proposal development. Internationally, Drexel has also actively engaged in design, construction, and operations of special test systems and research facilities in many countries, and working directly with government agencies and industry in develop qualification test standards for emerging industries. So on top of all that, he also had a chance to complete 2 weeks a 2-week Rotoplast mission that's Tanzania as a team historian. So I don't know how you had the time to do all that. So I want to go ahead and let go, Mr. Drexel Smith go ahead and speak. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm absolutely honored to be here. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Is that coming through?
Yes.
Looks good.
Okay. Yes, indeedy. I was a member of a team, and I like to begin with the term caribou, which is welcome in Swahili, where last year I was the team documentarian historian for an exciting activity with Rotoplast. And at this juncture, let me just take a second. Rotoplast was started in San Francisco by two very famed plastic surgeons at St. Francis Hospital, who were members of the San Francisco Rotary Club, who said, gee, there's a lot of kids in the world with cleft palate problems that are not being dealt with, and started doing surgical teams around the world. Rotoplast morphed into a separate nonprofit based in San Francisco, which their primary sponsor is Rotary. Our District 5300 for the past 5 years has made it its mission to support at least one of the missions. Rotoplast tries to do at least one mission a month. They end up somewhere between 9 and 12 every year, except for this year, they had to terminate missions because of the virus. The mission I was on was to Arusha, Tanzania. There was 24 of us, 15 medical, 9 non-medical. The separation is the medical team members get the docs, surgeons, nurses, get their transportation paid for. The non-medical pay their own way. Tanzania, as you know, is a very old country, a major pass-through from ancient trade routes dating back thousands of years up through the Congo, up to Europe. Here's a photo of our team. I'm down here on the left. You probably wonder how the team documentarian got in the picture. And I'd like to share that Photoshop works. You can Photoshop yourself in. Our particular team was co-sponsored between District 5300 and the Rotary Club of the Netherlands. So about half the team was from Europe, the Netherlands and Germany. The rest of the team was from the US. We evaluated 124 patients, performed 6 surgeries on 61 with 79 procedures. That means that several of our patients got more than one procedure. Make sense? Okay. To introduce our team, the medical director was an exciting guy, Todd Farnsworth, a very famous plastic surgeon in Phoenix, Arizona, who has now closed his practice to devote full time to the Veterans Administration Hospital in Arizona and doing missions such as this. The team mission director is Randy Floyd, a Rotarian in Harleysville, PA, chief of police, but came home about 5 years ago, having done a Rotoplast mission, and said to his wife, I found what I wanted to do in life. And he has dedicated 2 to 3 missions a year as the team lead, very exciting. I learned, being my first medical mission, the leader of the team really is the head nurse. And we were blessed to have Kim Capps from Longmont, Colorado, who has done over 20 missions in her team. So again, we had the team lead. Paul Ferringer took the longest trip, a plastic surgeon from Kaiser Permanente in Honolulu, made the trip from Hawaii to San Francisco, all the way back to Europe, and then down to Africa. The second lead surgeon was Sibren Scheppel. He's done over 30 Rotoplast missions from the Netherlands, having retired from Europe. He was required to retire at age 65 by law to give a flow and job opportunities to the youngers. Rod Simmons, a senior surgeon, another Kaiser from San Francisco, having done over 20 Rotoplast missions. Three really interesting anesthesiologists. Another Kaiser was the lead, and a retired Navy doc, Stephen Carlson, and Tim Cunningham, who's the head anesthesiologist at the University of Pennsylvania Medical Center. We had two pediatricians, one from the Netherlands and one actually from Tanzania, who came from the Netherlands, was not only our team doc, but he was fluent in Swahili and was our team sort of interface. Again, our lead nurse was Kim Capps, two OR nurses, one from San Francisco and one from Colorado. Miss Jeannie is an exciting lady, over 60 missions, and did the last Rotoplast mission in India this past year. Two PACAO nurses. PACAO is the post-anesthesiology nurse, and that is the station where they immediately go to after surgery to get stabilized before they can go on to their room. Because so many of the patients with Rotoplast are now burn repair, which is unique to this kind of mission, the teams a year ago started hosting a lead physical therapist, and Linda was our lead PT for this mission. The non-medical team was Eddie Garcia from Boulder, Nevada, who supported the PACAO mission, Kevin Wool from Las Vegas, who was responsible for all of the team's sterilization equipment. Patrick from Pasadena was responsible for records. Mary Ann from the Netherlands, a wonderful, interesting lady, one of the largest chicken ranch farmers in the Netherlands and former mayor of her community, was doing her fourth mission. And Agnes Octoon, she's going to manage the therapy for the kids before and after. Many of you may know Eric Boyd. He's the head of the YMCA and a Rotarian here locally. Former district head of two different congressmen, was our logistician. Former Governor John Chase was the ward coordinator, and I, down here on the bottom, got to be the team historian, documentarian. Interestingly enough, until about 2 years ago, the title was team photojournalist. But because so many countries would not allow a journalist in the country, they changed the name to something else to allow them more freedom in the country. But our story begins traveling over 24 hours flight time from San Francisco through Europe down to Tanzania, arriving in a hotel that was actually walking distance to the hospital where we set up. Each day we made the walk along an interesting series of street vendors that we got to know. Mount Meru Regional Hospital was our clinic. We started with the first day doing introductions with a medical director, establishing the protocols. How are you going to do business? What surgical suites are we going to be allowed to use? What hospital rooms do we have access to? The in and out protocols, etc. Beginning the day before of our arrival, people from all over the country began to assemble, having seen flyers on the team's visit for this no-cost surgery. So our initial visit was a check-in where the registered nurses did an initial screening. Basically, was this patient the kind of patient and healthy enough to be considered for surgery? If they met that screening, they went through an induction process where the team surgeons in pediatrics did an initial screening. From there, the head nurse, along with the docs, made a schedule. And after a day and a half of evaluating 124 people, we announced the surgical schedule for the 7 days of surgery. And those that were lucky enough to make the surgery were delighted. Those that didn't, obviously, were quite saddened. It was an amazing and extremely emotional day for several hundred people. This is a screenshot of our typical kids, typical cleft palate sorts of things, burn repair patients. As you see, most kids, our youngest was a few months old, our oldest was an adult. Our first story, and my first story, was an amazing mother who recognized that she had a son of about 16 months who had a cleft lip that she knew would not grow up in her village with the freedoms that everybody else. He would be ostracized. He would be harmed by other kids. He wouldn't be treated as normal. She made the trip of 1,000 kilometers, many of which were walking. Some were like a bus-like van, until she got close enough to get on a community bus to go to Arusha, walking her way from the bus station to the hospital in the hopes that the poster she ordered a copy of, she'd be accepted for surgery. She was. It was a relatively straightforward, simple surgery. He was our first patient on table number 2. On the 3rd day, he was dismissed. The team took up a collection, so mom with the boy on the back with a fixed lip could get a bus ride all the way home. It was quite a great story for our first patient. So burn scar repair was some of the most significant and some of the most troublesome. A cleft lip repair may take less than an hour. Some of the burn scar surgeries were over 3 hours. This poor little girl, 3-year-old, performing the surgery was a very significant surgery. As you can see, having been burned from falling in a wood-burning stove, the burn scars had contracted her arm to where she could no longer have movement of her arm. So the mission was a full thickness skin graft where they cut away the burned skin. Then from her tummy, they took a piece of material about this big where they sliced it off, and where they cut away this burn material, they replaced this skin. So again, the 2 procedures, it was about 3 hours. And here she is in recovery. And we're pleased to tell you that 7 days later, the post-surgery was that she was already beginning to have some movement in her arm, and she was doing extremely well and was post-surgery therapy. It looks like she's going to do great. So this is an example of a full skinless thick graft. Why so many burns? Well, open fires, open cooking, a lot of hot oil. You can imagine these open burn stoves are just inviting for an infant. The loose garments that they wear that are cotton, they can catch on fire. So that's the reason why so many burn scarring issues to be dealt with. This young girl came after a 16-hour drive by bus, who was retrieving a tea kettle when the open fire caught her cotton dress on fire, and she was horribly burned on both thighs, on her inner thighs. They were horrible burns that just didn't want to heal. So this particular procedure was to cut away the material that wouldn't heal, and then they took a machine called a dermatome along her shin bone to slice a piece of material off her shin bone that was then put in a machine, sort of like a spaghetti, like a pasta maker, that made the skin thinner and wider and thinner and wider until they could staple it on this removed material on her inner thighs. This is referred to as a, a split thickness skin graft, or an XTCG. And again, after the therapy and the antibiotics, it appeared that the skin graft was working and the healing points. The place on her knees, or her shins rather, where the material was removed, sort of ends up like a raspberry burn you might have from sliding on the dirt, and that heals with a little ointment all by itself. It's the skin graft repair that we were trying to deal with. Little Elfie. Oh, this little girl stole my heart. This is the photo that she did in checking her in. I could just tell when this little girl sat down to get her picture taken that she had the biggest heart in the world, and it just wanted to leap out at me to give me a big smile. But she couldn't. She was so horribly burned on her face that she couldn't smile. She couldn't control her drool. And her eye was severely burned that she didn't have control, and she had dry eye to the point she was losing her eye. But even more severely, she so gently raised her hand to show me her fingers that were so burned that two of the fingers had contracted. So little Elfie had a three-part procedure. One, to deal with the issues of her lip, a second, her eye, and her third, to repair the fingers of her hand. And I'm pleased to tell you, this little girl, who was a victim of an exploding kerosene heater that were extensive, began to already have some limited use of her hand. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go back to Arusha and get a big kiss from that girl who I'm convinced can now give me a big smile. The wards were very active, and our former governor and physical therapist Agna spent their days dealing with over 30 patients, either preparing for surgery or dealing with post-surgery. In every case, their families moved in with them, sometimes 3 or 4 people sharing the bed with the kid trying to recover. It was most interesting, and the therapist had to do as much dealing with the families as had to do with the patients. But it was a fascinating part of the mission. Each mission requires a team to support. Volunteers from around the country send in money, send in supplies, send in help, send in funding. There's an organization out of the East Coast called Wrap a Smile that has and networks quilters from all over the country that make quilts, and they package them and ship them to Rotoplast. So every single patient gets a quilt as part of their recovery process. The quartermaster was responsible to ship over 34 boxes. The team was asked to travel without any checked baggage to allow these 34 boxes to take the place of any baggage. So we shipped 1,600 plus pounds and over $60,000 worth of equipment. The consumables were either used or left at the hospital, and we only brought home 17 boxes worth of materials. But the quartermaster job is constant, providing supplies. Every bit of the surgery, from our materials, our equipment, and the consumables, were used by what we brought. In my particular case, I brought my own scrubs that I had to wear in surgery to document the photos. I gave my scrubs to the locals when I left. So we gave away just about everything that we could. I'd like you to meet the twins. They're kind of fun. Joni and Joella, beautiful little girls, identical in every way, right down to their sneakers and sweaters, with one exception. Little Joni had a cleft lip, and she wanted to be able to smile like her sister. But more importantly, she was having an eating disability because of her lip. It just wasn't give her a beautiful smile. So these two great surgeons were able to do their job and send her on her way with a fixed lip. It was really a great day for the twins. My last story is the girl with the dirty dress. You can see there she is with her dad here on the left. A fashion plate on his own, with his own ears and dress, traveling over 500 kilometers, the first several on a motorcycle taxi, then on a three-wheeled truck taxi, because he was convinced that this team could do a work to help release her burned arm that she had from a boiling cooking oil incident. So her dad brought her all the way. It was a horrible trip, you can imagine. Well, during the process, our head nurse discovered this young girl, Nadaro, was wearing her only dress. So Kim took up a little collection, sent our help guys to town to buy her a new dress, shoes, undergarments, and some gifts that we wrapped up so she could take home a brand new, clean dress, and she could arrive home not being the girl with the dirty dress, and with hopefully an arm that would again work. So the cleft lip remains the big deal of the mission, but again, unique, unlike Smile Train or some of the other programs. Burns and burn scarring repairs have become a big deal for the Rotoplast mission. My personal takeaway are being my second international mission, my first one dealing with polio, building a dam, and supporting some teams in the ghetto in India. It's an unbelievable experience. You need to leave behind any expectations, negative views and attitudes and judgments, and recognize that you're living in a country that's fascinating on its own, and learn from the experience. I'll tell you, my takeaway is I learned far more than I could give. Interestingly enough, two of the local physicians were very interested in starting a business there, and found that I was a business consultant. And in the evenings, I spent quite a bit of time consulting with them on starting up a business, which was kind of funny, and have still communicated with them by mail on doing that. So you bring home an unbelievable lifetime of memories that will be with you forever. And truly, these are 61 people that will have their lives absolutely changed from this experience. Our mission director has gone on to lead more missions. And this was a deal for the next mission, which was in February, that District 5300 supported. And several people from across the district were there. Regretfully, this was the last Rotoplast mission. Because of the COVID, they had to discontinue missions for the remainder of 20 and through 21, but they're already in the planning stage to begin to spin up. So if your club's interested, we're still on the hunt for donations and support, and opportunities will abound to be part of a mission. So that's the end of my story. If you have time, I will happily take questions. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you so much. That was such a great story and your experience. Anybody have, yes, round of applause. Anybody have any questions? Well, for time's sake, we're going to go ahead and move forward. If we have some time at the end, Drexel, then we'll have those questions for you. If we can go ahead and we'll start our fast craft talk.
You can send me you can send me an email. I am honored to be Brittany's husband, Thomas, sponsor in Rotary. So you can connect through me through them. If you have any questions about Rotary and or the Peace Conference, please reach out. I'm happy to help any way I can.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And if you want to put your contact information, I know a couple of us already have it, but if you want to put it on the chat, your email, that would be great. The little chat box. Okay, and so let's go ahead and Brittany with our fast craft talk.
Yes, fast talking is my expertise. I'm just kidding, really. I will try to not talk too fast and get what I can into 5 minutes. So as far as who I am and what I do in this community, I say my #1 goal and personal mission is building bridges and cultivating community through 2 things. It's empowerment and meaningful engagement. Social Justice Advocacy Project started back in 2016, and our first big regional effort was a truth and reconciliation program. And it happened in response to the tragic killings of Philandel Castile, Eric Gardner, and then there was an ambush that murdered 5 Dallas police officers and injured 9 more. And me and my husband had just started this nonprofit. We had a 2-month-old at home, but we thought this is not going away, right? Tensions are rising, divisions are deepening. So what can we do to do something for our community to make sure that we didn't become a tragic hashtag? So what I did is I picked up the phone and I called every local law enforcement agency that I felt was kind of within the community that we resided in. So I went as far west as Azusa, as far east as Claremont, and the cities in between on the 210 and on the 10, so Pomona and West Covina and you know, San Dimas and areas around there. And I asked these police departments, what are we doing to foster community engagement? And what are we doing to make sure that we're building bridges? And we sat down and had a meeting with them and we talked with them. And it's highlighted, and it's been even more highlighted in my campaign now, that the issues with finding collective solutions, even on a small scale of our individual communities, is this immediate divisiveness whenever you start talking about something that feels political. And that's one thing that I love about Rotary and Rotarians. As Drexel mentioned, my husband's a West Covina Rotarian, and he's the legal counsel for District 53. You might have heard some of what this situation is that we talked about if you came to the 2019 Peace Conference. He presented on our Truth and Reconciliation program. But Drexel shared with us when we first started this work, you know, back when, you know, I was first starting to be engaged in politics, we always agreed on the problem, but we just had to disagree on the strategy to find the solution. But what we see now sometimes is we're even disagreeing about whether a problem is a problem. And I have found that it's because we're getting caught up in the divisiveness of national politics, of media, of whatever you want to unpack of why that happens. So what I try to do in my work in the community is let's boil it down to the common goal. And whether that's us talking about policing, whether it's talking about health and wellness, whether it's talking about education, we can talk about the common goal. And once we've identified that common goal and we empower folks who feel disempowered, if I'm citing the policing issue, it was the Black and Brown community who have felt disempowered historically, and we bring them to have meaningful interaction with law enforcement. I think that we actually can come together and find collective solutions. So that became the model of the Truth and Reconciliation program, where we got the support of 9 local law enforcement agencies, and they came together for a panel discussion where community members could voice their truths, and the police officers, the law enforcement chiefs, could respond with their vision of reconciliation. And I would say that that program was such a success that we were asked to do it again the following year. California Highway Patrol gave us a call and asked to participate as well. And this next one, we got to dig a little deeper and break up into small groups to really start having conversations. And I cite that program as being kind of my vision of how I think everything should work, right? If we are able to have those small group conversations, then we can have collective solutions. As I cited, I'm starting, or I'm in this campaign for school board. This has made me start to engage with teachers and parents and admin alike, and voters. And so frequently they ask questions that I can tell they're trying to get what side I'm on, right? Do you believe racism exists? Are you on Team Black or are you on Team Blue? Are you on Team Universal Healthcare or are you for private businesses? And my answer is always yes. Right? You can be for people and try to bridge that gap in communication for meaningful dialogue. So that's what I do through my organization, through Social Justice Advocacy Project. That's also just what I do in my life, because I think that we can discuss how to best build bridges in our community through stakeholders and organizations like Rotary, like nonprofit, like educational institutes. But what it really comes down to is, are we also seeking to build bridges in our friendships, in our relationships with our neighbors? It's just, it's my way of life. So much so we actually posted on Nextdoor asking our neighbors to meet us over a virtual dinner, because we just want to get to know people. And we think once we start seeing each other as people instead of through the lens of politics, we can come together as a community and find collective solutions. That's me.
Thank you very much, Brittany. I would love to have you back as one of our speakers. So definitely have you back. Great information. So next, I'd like to pass it on to Raymond for Fine Master.
You know what? I'm fining Casey $10 for not being here to be Fine Master, and Steve $10 for leaving early so they could pay up next meeting. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
No, that's it.
Nope.
No, we're not doing that today. They're just getting straight out fines. That's it.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Moving on to Tim.
Let's go ahead and move on to Tim for the Action 360.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, last time I did the Action 360, I focused on John Boyd, who was a fighter pilot that essentially codified, dogfighting tactics. And for some reason, I guess I'm drawn to military personnel or whatnot. But today, what I'd like to do is talk about the Eisenhower decision matrix. I actually have the pleasure of mentoring 2 individuals that work in the Parks and Recreation field. And it was quite fascinating that recently when we were talking, they were expressing their frustration on how they are finding it really difficult to organize themselves in a way where they're able to identify what's urgent, what's not important. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that in the roles that we sit in, there's so much information coming in at us over the course of the day that in recreation, you're constantly having to adapt and change and shift what it is that you're having to do. So one of the things that I've employed during my career is utilizing the Eisenhower decision matrix. Now, obviously, this is General Dwight Eisenhower, also President Eisenhower, and he utilized this framework for how he kind of organized his thoughts, his days, his activities, and everything. So essentially what we have here is we have categories where you decide whether it is urgent, not urgent, important, or not important. And based on going through this framework, you're able to identify where you can place, either your daily schedule, your weekly schedule, if things are popping up where you're having to adapt and everything. This is kind of a framework that you're able to kind of put those things in so that you can focus your attention and most importantly, kind of handle the tasks as they arrive and make real progress in either your work life, your personal life, those type of things. So just to kind of go over the different quadrants, as you can see in Quadrant 1, these are the things that are important and urgent. That's where they fall into. And these are most represented in either crises, deadlines, or problems. When it's both urgent and important, it's almost like you are automatically having to shift into this needs to be done and this needs to be completed at my desk at this particular point. In the recreation field, rarely are you dealing with this stuff unless you're dealing with, an incident accident report or if there's something going on at one of your buildings. However, based on other people's deadlines, you can also factor that into it as well. So if we're getting some assignments from our council or from our city manager, then we're having to shift it based on their priority. So we're having to constantly respond. The same thing goes with our responsiveness to the community as well. The next quadrant, not urgent but important. These are usually the only distinction between Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 2 is that it is the absence of a pressing deadline. So most of the time here, what you're trying to identify is, will this strengthen my relationship? Is this useful for me for future planning in what it is that I want to accomplish? And then there's the word that I love the most, recreation. So is it something that is important to me in terms of, my professional growth, my personal growth, that type of stuff. So, again, one thing, I'm a very faith-based person, so church would be probably in between 1 and 2, depending on how good of a man I was that week. But, it's one of those things that's important to me and that I obviously need to plan and into my schedule and make sure that it's a priority for me. Quadrant 3, if we go down, it is identified as urgent but not important. So most of the time, this is activities, right? So phone calls, interruptions, emails that are pinging at us while we're in the middle of our Rotary meeting and everything like that. So most of the time when you get to Quadrant 3, you're looking to try to delegate. Is this something that I need to handle right now? Obviously not, it's not urgent. It's more of just as disruption. So is there somebody that can either handle this assignment, handle this meeting for me, or is this something that I can maybe schedule out in the future when it's a more convenient time for me and everything? And then finally, Quadrant 4. I think we talked about this recently, but it's not important and not urgent. So it's time wasters, looking at our phone, looking at Facebook, Twitter, all that type of stuff, pleasant activities, and stuff that is trivial. So that is the way that Eisenhower kind of, structured the things that he had to deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis and everything. That's something that I've incorporated as well. I've found it to be very useful. And, it's one of the things that I'm also working with my daughter on because, she, in the distance learning atmosphere that she's currently involved with, it seems like everything's coming at her, and she doesn't have the freedom and the latitude to address what it is that she wants to address because she's having to constantly be engaged with somebody that's not even right in front of her and everything. So this is one of the things that I've introduced to her, as well as the mentees that I'm working with, because I'm finding, and I would love to hear from the group, is that those that are of the Generation Z generation, the amount of information that is constantly being given to them, in addition to all the responsibilities, because it's quite a bit, you know, this is something that I think is going to be a relevant issue for the professional workplace and also for them personally. And that is my Action 360 for today.
Thank you, Tim. Now, Raymond, we can move to the calendar. So everybody just take a look. We have a lot of great speakers coming up. It looks like we do have some openings. So those are guests that we have today. If you're interested, like Drexel, if you're interested in coming in and being part of our craft talk about your consulting, that'd be great. Also, the winter clothing drive, that I love the flyer, Raymond. I really do. So this looks great.
Did you do that, Raymond?
No, that's Greg did that. That's Greg's work.
All right. I was just making sure, because it has your flair, but I wasn't quite sure.
I thought you did do that. I was like, that looks nice. I really liked it.
Not me.
Okay, so moving on to the four-way test with Raymond.
Sure. You know, I got 5 children and 6 grandchildren. And one of the things that I constantly remind myself is this idea of, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Because sometimes, and it's, I think, highlighted with children, we do things for them and perhaps to them, and we make them do things that we can see in the long run it will be very beneficial to them. But in the short run, it is not. And so beneficial is a huge word with a long time horizon. And so as we apply the 4-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Remember that timeline can be very, very long, and that's your 4-way test.
Thank you very much, Raymond. So we're actually ahead of time today. I want to just thank everybody that joined us today, our speakers, our guests. It's a great thing to see more and more people joining us and being part of what we believe in at the Rotary. So thank you again for joining us and doing that. And guys, for us Rotarians, if there's any new hands-on work that we can do within the community, Tim, you probably have your ear closer to that. Feel free to let us know. And also our guests, if there's something that there's something you know that might be of interest for us to be hands-on, let us know. We really want to be a part of that and be part of our helping out our community. So with that said, thank you for those that stayed until the end of the meeting. Now everybody knows that you will be fined if you leave early. I like that, Raymond. So you will be fined if you don't show up. So thank you again, everybody. It looks like, oh, we forgot to add Craig to that fine. But thank you again, everybody. Have a great rest of your week and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.